Ella siempre ha tratado de traer lo que es la necesidad de la gente latina a todos los puestos que ella ha llevado. Pero no solamente los latinos, ella siempre ha luchado para la gente trabajadora.
Hilda is an outstanding candidate. She has so many years in LA County as a great leader, from Rio Hondo College to the Assembly to the Senate to Congress, and then as our Secretary of Labor. I know she's going to do a fantastic job because she's so committed to serving the people.
Hello, my name is Marcos Palma from the show Foro Latino. Once again, we want to thank you, all of you, our listeners, for allowing us to be in your home. Today we are in El Monte, California, and this is because we are going to be with the former Secretary of Labor, Hilda Solis, that she is running for the supervisor of the LA County in the District Number 1. She recently kicked off her campaign in this office, and that was a full house. Was a lot of people there. We have a businessmen, family members, we have a congresswoman, legislators, students, and a lot of volunteers supporting. That was a big kickoff campaign. And today we had the honor to have Mrs. Hilda Solis. That she was the first Latina to be in the White House from the 2009 to 2013. And then she was in the House of Representatives from 2001 to 2009 in the District 31st and 32nd. And also, she was in the Legislature of California in 1992, and she was the first Latina to be in the State Senate in 1994. She graduated from Cal Poly Pomona and USC, and also she's been working a lot with the students. She belonged to the Rio Hondo Community College Board, and she has done many things for the Latino. As you can see, today we're gonna talk about all those achievements, all those challenges that she's been facing. And also in this campaign, a new campaign, because it's not gonna be easy running for supervisor in LA County. But before we start talking about her campaign, I wanna welcome Mrs. Hilda Solis. Thank you very much, Mrs. Solis, for letting us to do this interview and this new adventure for you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, and you're very welcome to come here in our campaign office in El Monte and to visit the first supervisorial district. This is an exciting time for all of us and for the community.
Before that we start talking about your campaign, Mrs. Solis, I would like to start asking you about your grow up. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? What kind of school did you go out, and that your challenges that you have as a teenager, as a student, because you know the problematic in the students, but tell us yourself.
Well, I grew up in the community of La Puente, which is part of LA County, unincorporated, and my family, both are immigrants. Father was Mexican and my mother's Nicaraguan. They raised 7 children. I was the first of 7 to go to college, and it was actually I don't want to say coincidence, but it was very important to have the kind of good public support in education. I had a high school counselor, Mr. Bob Sanchez, who was very, very supportive of me and encouraged me to go to college. And at first I thought it was an impossible dream because my parents were not trained in college or knew about how that system works. It was very difficult. This gentleman helped us apply for college, apply for financial aid, and told me that I could actually be eligible to attend the university. And once I learned that, I thought, wow, here's a dream come true, to be able to change my lifestyle, to change the outlook of my family. My parents worked very hard to raise their children, and they were just happy that we finished high school. So I was the first of 7, and I'm the middle child to go to college. And after that, it opened up opportunities for the rest of my family. My younger sisters also went to the university, UCLA, and I'm very proud of them as well. But I'm most proud of my parents, because they're the ones who instilled this work ethic and also sense of respect, and also the knowledge of whatever you have, you can gain and do so many things in life, but you must remember where you come from. You must also remember to give back and to be very mindful of that. So that has been something that has been a part of my growing up. My father was also a leader with the Teamsters, with the shop. He was a shop steward, and he helped to organize immigrant workers so that they could get better pay raises, get a safety, protection in the workplace, and also get retirement and health care benefits. So my father, as they say in Spanish, was a luchador. So I learned very early in life how it was to have a voice and to speak up for people and to fight for the rights of working men and women.
I can see that you achieved the American dream, but there is an American dream that is not granted, that takes the sacrifice, that takes the challenge. And I can see that comes in the blood from your parents, the people that struggle every single day to keep going, to work hard, to wake up early in the morning and stay late, to keep working for the kids. Tell me more about your mom. Tell me more about her, because I saw her in your Keep Up campaign, and she was excited. She was really to help you, to keep going. And I asked her, what is some of the qualities that Hilda, that Mrs. Solis has? And she told me, she's very humble. But with being humble, you have to have something else.
You have to have ganas. You have to have ganas, and you really have to have a sense of direction and where you want to go. And my mother, thank goodness, she's just a very hard worker, someone who's very nurturing, would always bring people around the house and feed them and take care of them. And she was one of those cuidadoras, you know, someone who took care of other people's children as well while she was raising her 7 children. She worked very hard, and so did my father. But they instilled this whole sense of giving back and being a community and helping to foster family ties, and to know how important that was, but to know that also their children could also become something and could contribute to society and do good things, do things that they were not able to do in their home countries because they came from poverty and they came here with an idea, the American dream of having a better life, of having the sense that they too could have accomplished a lot in this country. So my father and mother really helped to instill that. They were very good about teaching us the responsibility of being responsible at work and education, no matter what you did, and also your civic involvement. My mother and father actually met in a citizenship class many years ago, before I was even born. So that just tells you where my parents were coming from, that they knew this was going to be their home, this was going to be the home, this country was going to be the country of their children.
Mrs. Solis, you graduated from Cal Poly Pomona in USC, and why did you decide to study political science?
I wanted to actually go into law school. So my whole idea was to work in government, not really to become an elected official. That didn't really enter into my mind. It was more to help work in government, because I was taught that government could help provide balance in our society. Even if you didn't come from a wealthy background or you didn't come from a highly educated background, that you still had rights in this country, and the Constitution provides that for all of us. So when I was growing up, I remember hearing about Cesar Chavez, about John F. Kennedy, the president at that time, when I was growing up as a child, and how important it was to stand up for our rights, our civil rights, and no matter where you came from, that this country had laws to protect everyone. So I felt that if I wanted to make a difference, that I had to get involved in government. And so my goal was to either become an attorney or to work in government.
We're talking with Hilda Solis, that she's running for supervisor in the LA County for the district number 1.
Bueno, si miramos toda la trayectoria de Hilda Solis, en cada puesto que ella ha estado ha hecho muchos cambios, ¿no? Podemos, desde que estaba en la Asamblea, en el Senado, en el Congreso, han celebrado mucho todos los lugares donde César Chávez vivió, yendo ahí como en La Paz, California, en King, donde César vivía, sus oficinas. Todos esos lugares que se hicieron históricos fue por Hilda, porque ella pasó una ley en el Congreso que se hiciera todo eso, ¿no? Ella siempre ha tratado de traer lo que es la necesidad de la gente latina a todos los puestos que ella ha llevado, pero no solamente los latinos, ella siempre ha luchado para la gente trabajadora, que somos la mayoría en Estados Unidos, la gente trabajadora es la mayoría, Y en todo lugar donde he estado siempre deja algo bien atrás de ella, ¿no? Podemos mirar todos los logros que ella ha hecho y te podemos tener bastante orgullo que una mujer de nosotros que viene de una familia trabajadora, ella no viene de familia rica, pero que ha usado todo su talento para hacer las cosas mejores y dejar cosas buenas para todo el pueblo. Así es que yo me siento orgullosa que yo la considero una amiga, a Hilda Solis, pero además de eso que es una persona que yo respeto, que a mí me inspira con su compromiso, con su dedicación y siempre poniéndose con el público para servir al público. Es una cosa muy honorable.
Mrs. Solis, when you were a student, there was somebody that told you you're not a college material. What was your reaction?
Well, I was disappointed. There was a high school counselor who really didn't spend a lot of time with many students. They were just kind of checked off the boxes, as they say. And when I told him that I had already spoken to Mr. Sanchez, who I knew and was also a teacher there at high school, I said, well, my understanding is that I can go to college, and that's something that I'd like to pursue. But this other counselor said, well, no, and it was interesting because he said it not just in front of me, but he said it in front of my mother. And he said, well, your daughter isn't college material, and she shouldn't go to college because she's not prepared, and she should maybe go study to be an office clerk or a secretary.
That really hurts.
It hurt me. I think it hurt my mom more. But for me, what I took that to mean was that I don't have to take what someone tells me, that I don't have to determine my outlook based on what someone else's opinion is of me, and I can change that, and I can go and find other avenues, and that's exactly what I did. And lo and behold, some 30, 40 years later, I have the title of Secretary of Labor.
And then you went back to that position.
So
what a surprise for me.
But the story is a story that can be told over and over again. I've traveled around this country, and I've heard so many people tell me from different walks of life, you know what, Secretary Solis or Hilda, I had the same thing happen to me. And what I like to tell people, especially young people, is don't take no for an answer. If someone tells you that you have barriers or that you're not confident or you're not ready to do something, you got to be able to say, no, I want to make the decision and I want to move ahead. And I think that's the best example that I can give to people who are listening to us today.
Now, I would like to ask you about your political career. Once you graduated from USC in Cal Poly Pomona, what was your first job?
Well, after I finished Cal Poly Pomona, I went to USC to get my master's degree, and I had to seek an internship, what they call an internship, where you learn how to work, say, in your field of study in public administration. So I was very fortunate to work at that time in the Carter White House in the Office for Hispanic Affairs with Esteban Torres. And I was actually a writer, so I would write a newsletter on Hispanic issues, and I got to interview people and be involved in things that happened in the White House. And at the time, I was 21 years old, so this was like a very, very big...
Were you scared?
Yes.
About that? I said 21 years
Certainly,
old, we're going to do that.
In fact, I remember my parents telling me, mija, ¿por qué te quieres ir tan lejos? No conoces a ninguna persona. ¿Quién te va a cuidar? ¿Qué vas a hacer? And they kind of questioned me about it. And I said, Mom and Dad, I have to do this. I have to do it to further my education and to be able to do the things that I want to do. And so I left, and I eventually ended up staying there and working almost 2 years as a full-time employee. So I finished my studies, my master's program at USC that they had in Washington, and then I also worked in the administration and also worked for the Office of Civil Rights.
Did President Carter give you any inspiration to keep going
He
in
did,
this political career?
and the people around him, and his wife, Rosalind Carter, who I got to know even better after I left the White House, spoke fluent Spanish. So I was very impressed with her, and she cared very deeply about people from different backgrounds, and I could see their encouragement and support of people who come from areas like mine, from California, from Texas, from Latinos from all over the country.
When you were represented the California legislature in the California Senate states, How was your job, and then why you decided to be in those places?
Well, what I want to say first of all is that I started my real political career back here in El Monte. I ran for the Rio Hondo Community College Board because I felt very, very concerned about education. And at the same time, when I came back home from Washington as finishing up my master's and working there 2 years, I also ran an education program to help underrepresented students, minorities, and low-income students prepare for college. So I had this desire to help other people to get the information that I received, be able to give back and encourage them to prepare themselves, that they too could see themselves going into careers and going into college. So that was a very important part of my philosophy. And after that, I was encouraged by people to run for the state assembly and the state senate. And when I got to the state senate, I was the first Latina elected back in 1994. And I was pretty young. Everyone was a lot older than me. And the way they say it in Spanish is te tratan como una hija. Because there were many elders, yes. Pero me cuidaban, and they would actually, that worked to my advantage because they would give me insight and help me out. So they would help me actually better understand how the processes work and how to get my bills through the Senate and how to get votes, and that's very important if you're going to be successful.
Si a ella le gustaba ese trabajo, pues que lo pudiera moderarse, ¿verdad? Un poco para poderlo aguantar, porque era muy difícil viajar todos los días en avión. Todos los días, por eso se dejó el puesto. Pero el presidente estuvo muy contento. Fuimos a la White House y hablamos con él salió y habló con nosotros y le dio las gracias a ella porque hizo un trabajo muy bueno y que es muy difícil, decía mi hija, porque tenía que viajar en el avión todos los días.
Thank you for joining us once again. We're talking with the former Secretary of Labor, Mrs. Hilda Solis. Mrs. Solis, thank you very much once again. If you can tell us about your achievements and challenge where you were in the California Legislature and also in the California State Senate.
I think about three things. One is helping to raise the minimum wage that hadn't been done in California at that time back in 1995, 96. And at the time we had a governor, Pete Wilson, who was very anti-immigrant and anti-workers. And I was in the legislature, and we actually carried legislation. 3 times he vetoed the bill. He voted not to sign the bill that got the support of the Assembly and the Senate, and it was to raise the minimum wage at that time from $4.25 to $5.75. He vetoed it 3 times, but that didn't keep us back. What we ended up doing was going to the public and getting an initiative placed on the ballot, getting petitions and getting signatures, and then we got enough signatures to get it on the ballot, and it passed by 62% of the vote. And even though the governor and there were many people against the increase in the minimum wage, it would benefit many, many people, especially adults, as particularly women, and people that were working in low-wage, skilled jobs that were trying just to make headway in supporting their families. So I felt very good about everyone coming together and helping us do that, even though the obstacle was the governor who said, no, we're not going to raise the minimum wage because you're going to actually kill jobs. Well, the reverse came true because we actually saw more people spending more money because they had more money to use and they were able to create jobs. So no one lost. And I still believe that's true even today as the president is talking about raising the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour in the coming years. The second piece of legislation I think was very important was working on environmental justice. I carried the first piece of legislation that was signed into law by Governor Gray Davis at the time, so that we could look at communities like this here in Los Angeles County, in East LA, and La Puente, and other parts, El Monte, where there are already, say, contaminants in the air that are more heavily concentrated in communities where there are poor people, low-income people, and factories that pollute the water or the air. And this bill would actually allow us to do an assessment to kind of diagnose where all these negative contaminants were being released and why, and to study that and to say, wait a minute, Why do we have to have more of those industries placed next to communities that are poor or low income or working class? So this was the first piece of legislation that was signed into law in the country, and it was modeled after President Clinton's executive order. And after we finally got it through, because it took a long time to get that bill passed, 25 other states followed our lead in California and also passed the same bill. So that's just to tell you that if you're determined to do something and you have a coalition of people from the environment, from labor, from religious backgrounds, from low-income communities, that you can all come together as a force and make a difference in your community.
How did you make that possible? Because it's not easy.
Well, I go back to what my parents taught me: coalition, community, reaching out, talking to people, and respecting them, and telling them also that their word and their voices have value. And that's what it meant, bringing people together. Many people don't want to spend the time to do that, but for these kinds of issues, they're very important. And even today, we're faced with problems in East LA right now, where they have a battery recycling plant that has contaminated and provided cancer-causing omissions that hurt families' well-being and children, that can have devastating effects for years to come. So these issues continue, but we have to continue to fight. And then the third thing I would say is creating open space, recreation, so that our children can enjoy the rivers, the creeks, the bike paths, have parks so that they can go and enjoy recreation and have better health. Many of our children live in apartments, or they go to schools that all they have is blacktops. There's no trees, there's no grass, they can't even play soccer, they can't play football, they can't play baseball. Those are the things that I grew up with, and I think that we should be making sure that we prioritize open space at whatever extent we can for the public. And that is something that is a big issue area right now, because we're faced with climate change, we're faced with this global warming that's occurring. A lot of it has to do with the imbalance in our environment. And I really believe that if we have more open space, more trees, more wildlife, that people will actually take advantage of going out and helping to keep that safeguarded. So I think that's something that's very valuable. It's something that's a part of our culture too. It's a part of our Mexican and our Latin culture to honor the natural habitat in our environment and our surroundings. That's something that both parents, my father in particular, taught me as a child when I was growing up.
You were facing hard issues.
Yes.
Where you mentioned former Governor Pete Wilson,
Yes.
the creator of the 187 anti-immigrant law, and now working legislation to raise the minimum wage against the corporation. Hasn't been easy.
No.
However, you've been persistent. You haven't lost any campaign. Tell us about how did you do those campaigns that you haven't lost?
Well, I don't look at it just as the campaigns, because there's always setbacks. You always are confronted with people who have different opinions. And sometimes you have to put those aside, and sometimes you have to sit down and work them out. And you have to compromise, or you work on a solution together. And I think that's what I'm trying to work towards, even now in this campaign, is trying to let people know that I provided service in the past here as an elected official, a public servant. I don't consider myself a politician, I say a public servant, because that's what I'm trying to do, is to actually be a voice for our community at different levels. And this race that's coming up on June the 3rd, the primary for the Board of Supervisors, is very important, because even though we are, say, the majority in the county, there are many people that think that it's not important to vote, and especially our Latino community. So we have to tell them, no, you have to be involved, you have to be engaged. And even if you're a high school student, you can come and get involved in these campaigns. We want that. We want that kind of activity and involvement by the part of our community and all communities.
Bueno, en primer lugar, es una persona latina que tiene nuestras costumbres, nuestras necesidades, y creemos que es la mejor opción para nosotros.
¿De qué forma les ha ayudado aquí? Porque ella ha sido senadora del estado, ha sido legisladora, ha sido congresista. ¿Qué beneficios ustedes han visto al tenerla en estos puestos como servidora pública?
Como le digo, está cuidando nuestros intereses, y pensamos que con estas personas pues nos puede ayudar un poquito más al soporte de nosotros que venimos como inmigrantes a este país.
I have to tell the people that we're in the headquarters of Mrs. Hilda Solis. If you hear the telephone ring, don't worry about it, because they have people working on it. And don't worry about the background. Now, I would like to talk about your job as a Secretary of Labor in the White House. You were the first Latina, the first woman representing the voice of those that struggle every day to put their food on their tables of the kids. But before you were there, how did you find out that Mr. Obama wants you to fill up the job?
Well, I was very surprised that I was even being considered. I was in the Congress serving for 8 years, and I had known Senator Obama at the time. Our staffs would work together on issues regarding health care, regarding the environment, regarding teenage pregnancy, gang violence, and education. So I already knew him by reputation, and he knew me. And I was of course, I was very flattered when I got a call from his campaign to ask me if I would consider the position, and I was asked to go back and be interviewed by him. And at first I said, well, I need to talk this over with my family, my husband, my family, my immediate family, to see what their input was. And they said, well, you go and see what he has to say, and also, it's an honor to be asked. So I did spend a time with him, and he interviewed me, we talked, and he's very knowledgeable. And he asked me basically, well, how would you run the Department of Labor? There are 15,000 employees, and you've never run a big operation like that. So how would you do that, Hilda? And I said, well, Mr. President-elect, like you, sometimes we have the burden of always having to prove ourselves even more, because some people don't always have the confidence in us. So we have to work 3 times harder, because I'm a Latina, because I'm a woman, and because of my age. And I've seen all those factors affect me in my career. But I don't let that overtake me, and I continue to surround myself with people who have knowledge, and people that are good folks that can help me manage and run this particular department. And that was my commitment to him. And when we finished our discussion, he looked at me and he said, and I could see his eyes kind of sparkling, and he said, well, I'll let you know my decision tomorrow. And I thought, oh my God, what did I do? Did I blow it? Or, and I felt, well, at least I felt good about what I had to say. And then the following day I got a call, and they offered the position to me.
What was your reaction of your family when you got the job and say you're in the White House?
Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. My father was so proud.
Did your mom cry?
Both of them, all of us did. My father including, father included. He was a very humble man. Talk about being humble. My father and mother, very humble.
I can imagine a man from immigrant and put your daughter in the White House. It was huge, and that's what I asked you to cry, the happiness, everything comes.
The pride,
Exactly.
el orgullo que tenía mi papá.
Then I saw a video when you were talking, I think so, it's a union members or workers, and you mentioned the new sheriff in town. Why did you mention that phrase?
Because the Department of Labor is the second agency with the most enforcement capabilities. So next to the Department of Justice, the Department of Labor also has the enforcement tools to have individuals and businesses abide by our laws. So whether it comes to wages, safety, health care, a lot of those issues come before the Department of Labor. And in the past, we had previous administration that really didn't side with the, workers. And this was going to be a different administration. The president really wanted to make sure that we protected everybody in the workplace. So even if you worked in the construction industry, even if you worked in digging digging holes or tunnels or working in a mining industry, that you should be protected, that you should be safe, and that you should have all the expertise training that you needed and the safeguards to be provided by the government, but also by the businesses that were doing business. Because if there's a relationship between the business and an employee, that employee has certain rights by federal law to make sure that they get paid minimum wage, that they get paid overtime, that they have insurance, health insurance or workers' compensation in case they get injured on the job. So yes, that's kind of a role of a sheriff. You enforce the laws.
You really enforce the laws. Tell us a little bit about your achievements, Mrs. Solis.
Well,
As a secretary.
I would say that when we came into office, it was 2009, so we were at kind of the peak of the recession, and unemployment was very high. So one of the major priorities for the administration was quickly getting people back to work and also providing them with relief, so unemployment insurance. So we had to put in place many programs quickly to make sure that we could provide assistance to the country, and in those key areas where there was very high unemployment. And so we did a lot of funding for training and new jobs, green jobs, in advanced manufacturing, and also in healthcare, and also in getting people retrained, because there are many people who lost their jobs. Those jobs were no longer going to be in the United States. They had gone overseas. So now we had to train people that maybe worked for 25 years on an assembly line. And how are you going to do that? So you have to get them into some maybe apprenticeship programs, or get them into a community college or vocational programs, and make sure that they have the funding to do that.
Besides those green jobs that you were creating during your time as a Secretary of Labor, and what other kind of jobs were you working on, or were you creating?
Well, we also looked at issues to help young people, because there was very high rates of unemployment among our youth. And many were not finding jobs because at the time there was so much job loss that many people that would have gone up, say maybe in seniority, didn't move because there was no movement. People weren't hiring new workers. So what does that say for college students or for high school students who needed also to work? So we looked at programs to help provide support for young people to work in different areas, some of which was in green energy. Solar panel installation, conservation, helping to create green parks, for example, and helping to take young people that may have not succeeded in high school, that dropped out of high school, but giving them a second chance to get training. So we focused a lot on young people and also on women, because women right now, in my opinion, still don't make enough money compared to men doing the same job. So right now, it's about helping women get back on their feet, because in many ways, they're the sole, household earner for the family. And we need to provide assistance for her, and for also training, but also she needs to take family leave, or to take care of a sick child or a sick parent, that she not lose her job because of that.
I'm here to support a great candidate for the LA County Board of Supervisors, Hilda Solis. Hilda is an outstanding candidate. She has so many years in LA County as a great leader, from Rio Hondo College to the Assembly to the Senate to Congress, and then as our Secretary of Labor. I know she's going to do a fantastic job because she's so committed to serving the people.
Talking about Mr. Obama, yesterday he was in Austin, Texas, talking about the speech from the former President Lyndon Johnson, talking about the civil rights movement. Being closer to Mr. Obama, how did you describe him? What kind of boss is he?
Well, he's someone that asks for your input, someone who also respects what you have to say, your advice. And obviously, he's a well-versed, intelligent man. He's a constitutional lawyer, taught at Harvard, was a senator, but also comes from humble beginnings. He was raised by his mother, a single head of household. He also was able to get his education through financial aid, very much like my background. So he also was a community activist and got involved in understanding the community. And I believe that we had similarities in that sense, that we really care about what happens to our community. So I found him very refreshing. He was not your typical politician, so to speak.
How is his Spanish speaking?
Está mejorando.
It's getting better.
Better, yes.
Okay, now Mrs. Hilda Solis, I would like to start about your campaign, running for supervisor in LA County for the first district. Why did you decide to run for that position?
Well, it's an important role. I've spent many years working in the legislature in Sacramento and in the Congress. And sometimes you don't always see, as I was explaining to you earlier, that it takes time to get things done. Sometimes years, sometimes 3 to 4 years to see your piece of legislation work its way through, or even to get funding for clinics and things like that. But I know that I have that kind of how could I say, background that can help me get things accomplished. So I want to bring the skills that I know, the contacts that I have, the expertise and talents, surround myself with good people so that we can do things here in the First District. Create jobs, job training, make sure that we also provide a continued safety net for social services. Right now we have some big issues with the sheriff and also with child protective services, with foster care, with probation camps, with the court system, and education. But also making sure that we take care of the services that are needed for the 2 million people that live in the First District. And it is a district that spans, that includes over 27 cities. They're very large. From far east is Pomona and Claremont, to the San Gabriel Valley, to East Los Angeles, to the northeast part of LA, downtown LA, all the way to Southgate and Huntington Park and Bell, and many communities in between. This area has been impacted heavily by the slow start in the recession, getting out of that. So job creation, I think, is a big priority, and education and training, and that's something that I know something about.
Mrs. Gloria Molina, the current supervisor, she's not going to run again because of the limits. But what's the Gloria Molina means to you?
So she's been an icon. She's someone who broke barriers very early for Latinas. She was the first assemblywoman Latina to run in the state legislature. She was one of the first city council representatives also. But she also is the first supervisor here, representing this area for over 22 years. And she also has fought very focused and has been able to do so many good things for our Latino community as well as for everyone else. So I'm proud to call her a friend and a colleague, and I've known her for many years. I met her years ago when I worked in the Carter White House. She was working for President Carter. So she was one of my role models that I looked up to at that time, because there were very few.
One of your challenges in this district, number one, is the creation of jobs. What would be some of your proposals to create jobs, and what kind of jobs for this area?
Well, first of all, we need to bring together all the entities, the different agencies that oversee job creation and training. So we have education, we have community colleges, we have universities, but we also have what they call the workforce investment boards. And those are also funded through the county and the state and the federal government. So bringing all those entities together, looking at where the potential for job growth and development is. And I said a little bit earlier that one of my interests is in green jobs and in science, technology, engineering, and advanced manufacturing. So we still need people to repair things. We still need people to, for example, be able to work in the electrical technician capacity. They make good money. Some of those individuals that work for Edison or the telephone company can make very, very good income, but we need people that are going to be trained, that have more math and science and computer skills. And we need to make sure that we get all of our young people engaged in what the future has to offer. We shouldn't be investing in people overseas. We should be investing in our human capital right here in our community.
When you kick off your campaign for the Board of Supervisors a few days ago, I can see many people supporting you. I can see businessmen, family members, friends, and the ordinary people supporting you. But besides them, any organizations, for example, the fire department is supporting you. Who else is supporting you?
The public employees for the LA County firefighters have endorsed me, so have the sheriffs, and so have the workers. Many of the workers that work in different agencies and social service, the people that work there in education. I have a number of people from the legislature, from Sacramento and from Congress as well, but I have business people that are also from the other side of the aisle, as they say, Republicans. I even got the endorsement of former Mayor Richard Reardon, and also from prominent businesses here in the area and in Los Angeles. So I feel very proud about that because they're looking at my record. They're looking at what my vision is for Los Angeles, and they want to support that. And I actively seek more people to get engaged and come on board and help us in this campaign, because it's a people's movement. It's a community movement. It's not something that's foreign, that's coming in from another place. It's here, it's homegrown.
You mentioned in your speech that day, your kick-off campaign, that is not only about one person.
Yes.
It's about all together. And I can see that day that many people supporting you, talking about very good things about yourself. What was your reaction on that day that you feel that excitement of that day?
I was very moved. I was very honored because these things don't just happen overnight, and I really give thanks to the community that has often been behind me and supporting me and challenging me, and to my family, to my parents. As I said, my father and mother, mean a great deal to my upbringing and where I am today. And my brothers and sisters, as well as the community. There are many, many people that have been working alongside with me for many, many years.
I can see here in your office you have teenagers, people helping
Of
you.
all ages.
And all ages helping you. And how, besides this, how are you planning to run your campaign?
Well, we need to reach many voters. We need to reach voters that vote by absentee ballot. They're called permanent absentee ballots. We have many, many people in our community now, especially Latinos, that have signed up to vote at home. So you don't have to go in and take a day off or take half day off to go vote. You can vote at your home. You can request your ballot 30 days before the election and fill out the ballot there. So we're going to be calling people. We're going to be walking door to door, just as we did when we had our kickoff. Every week we will be doing that around the county. We'll have places in Pomona, in the northeast Los Angeles, East LA, in the Southgate and Bell Gardens area, and also in communities here in the San Gabriel Valley. And it's really people just coming together who want to help, whether they can donate or they can come in and help us make phone calls or knock on doors and just be a part of this movement, because it's our community's people movement.
We're talking with Mrs. Hilda Solis, that she is running for the supervisors, for the Board of Supervisors in LA County for the 1st District. Mrs. Solis, are you planning to have a fundraiser for your campaign?
We've had several, but right now we're focused on making sure that we get all our volunteers here. It's nice to be able to have the community come out and support you when you begin your effort, but now it's to sustain that and keep people coming in and keep them engaged, and especially our young people and our senior citizens and everybody that has an opportunity to vote, and that is across the board. So we have a lot of work to do. There are 2 million people that we have to try to reach and get out to, and right now we have to work every single day to get that vote out.
Any possibilities to bring Mr. Obama or Mrs. Obama to your campaign?
I doubt seriously that they have the time. Right now they have major issues to contend with back in Washington
Former
and around the
President
world.
Carter? About Mr. Carter?
I don't think so. He's he's in Georgia, I believe.
What about Mr. Clinton? You're
knows?
working on it.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? We have sometimes they're happening dirty campaigns between candidates. Maybe it could be national or federal elections. What's your take about the dirty campaigns?
Well, I think people are tired of it, and I think people really want to hear what the issues are. I mean, there's the same thing is happening back in Washington right now. People are tired of negative campaigning and mudslinging, as they say. People want to hear about the issues. What is it that you're going to do that's going to accomplish something for the benefit of the community or for the area that you're running? That's what people want. They want results, and I hope to be able to step up to do that, to continue on with what Supervisor Molina has already established, to work on that and build on it, and hopefully increase more participation on the part of the people that would be represented by the 1st District, by this supervisor.
You're going to represent the African American, the Jewish community,
Asians.
the Latino, Asians, and the gay community, disabled, etc.
Right.
But do you have any special message for the Latino community?
I would say that it's very important for them to come out to vote. I saw the strength of the Latino vote when President Obama was first elected and in his second re-election. But more importantly, here in California and in Los Angeles, we have many, many people who are now eligible to vote because of what happened back with 187. With those people that tried to suppress our voices, that has now created opportunity for us to get organized and to bring people around us to understand our issues so we could take care of education, job development, immigration reform, healthcare services, and senior services, and better care and treatment for our foster youth, and also for those young people that want to get better education.
Going back to your campaign, why do you think people should vote for you this June the 3rd?
I think I'm a good alternative, and it's someone that is, I believe, trusted, someone that has already a proven record, but someone who wants to come back and give back. And it's my saying is coming back to serve. It's coming back to serve the community. It's no different from what it was when I ran in other campaigns.
Besides that, you're a woman, you're a Latina, you don't take nothing for granted, and you're a humble person. What is some of your qualities of yourself?
Well, it's hard for me to talk about it in that manner, but I would just say that if I set my mind to something, I work very hard at it. And I try to find solutions to problems. And I try to raise those voices that oftentimes are not given the ability to be raised. And that means everybody. That means people from the low income, working class families, people that maybe have needed more assistance by the county, helping to be a voice and to make sure that those voices are heard and that there's a balance there. There's always that opportunity to balance that, and I think that's what I bring to the table.
If you win in June the 3rd, what will be one of the first things that you will work on it?
Well, I have to then continue to work to get make sure that I get elected in November, because that's just the first phase. You don't take office until after the November election, the fall election. So I'll be working every single day, no matter what, to achieve that goal in November. And the Board of Supervisors, the new 2 members that will come in, won't start work. They won't be sworn into office until December.
Finally, Mrs. Hillary, I'm just going to tell Hillary, Miss Hilda Solis. Actually, I want to mention about the incident where Mrs. Hillary Clinton was involved a few days before that. It's not rational that somebody throw something to a politician or a leader. It's not something that we would like to see with our leaders. It's not nice. We grew up, we're in a democratic country, far away from other societies. And that's maybe that come to my mind. But Mrs. Hilda Solis, if you want, I would like to ask you if you want to invite the people to go and vote in the June the 3rd, because many of the Latino community, they do not participate.
We want them,
yes. In their houses, they don't want nothing, but we keep complaining about jobs, about housing, about healthcare, but if you would like to invite them to go out.
Yes, I want to invite the public, and especially our Latino communities, men, women, young people that are 18 years of age and older, to come out and vote. And it's very important to have their voices heard, because most people think that we're not going to vote, that we're going to stay home because we don't care, and I want to prove them wrong. I want to be able to send a strong message that this county is standing up and the 1st District has a voice, and they're proud. They're proud of their accomplishments, and they want to be able to do much more. And they don't want their voices suppressed. They want their voices heard. So that's why it's important to come out to vote. They can vote by mail, as I said, 30 days before the election, or they can go into their polling place and call the LA County Registrar's office to find out where their nearest polling place is. And they can call our office here too.
I forgot something, to invite the people that want to be participating in your campaign. If they want to be volunteers, I also forgot if you want to invite the people that wants to be part of your campaign.
Definitely. If people want to go online, they can go on hildasolis.com and they can get our address, our phone number. They can volunteer, they can donate, they can do so many things. We have such a big county. There's so many parts of the campaign that they can help us out with. Right now, we are hungry to hear their voices. So we encourage them to please come on board and help us out. Between now and June the 3rd, that's our goal, to get more people involved.
How confident you feel that June the 3rd you're going to be the winner?
I don't take anything for granted. Right now, I'm counting on the people who live here to come out to vote. So I need everybody's help, everybody's voice sounding in unison that we're going to go out and we're going to vote and we're going to be able to make a difference here in the 1st District.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hilda Solis. It's been an honor to have you and talking about your career. Congratulations for all your achievements. You represent, you're an inspiration to many people, to many Latinas, Latinos in all the United States, and reminds me the American dream that yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
When you achieve,
Sí se
you want
puede.
to do something, yes, we can.
Sí se
Thank
puede.
you so much. It's been an honor, Mrs. Hilda Solis. Thank you very much again, and we hope we can see you very soon. My name is Marcos Palma on behalf of everybody that makes possible this show. Thank you and see you soon.